Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we're going to be talking about Words of Radiance. In the course of a month, I read Words of Radiance, The Way of Kings, Warbreaker, and I'm about to get done with Edge Dancer, but that barely counts. It's only 100 pages, a little over 100. And yeah, so today we're going to talk about Words of Radiance. And I have to say, I'm a little disappointed in the sense that this book is going to make me, speak about it nonstop to anyone and everyone that I talk with, right? Kind of like how I talked with people about Halo when I was 12. It's like I just couldn't shut up about it. And now, this series has gotten to a point where I'm not going to be able to shut up about this. And let me get a little disclaimer out of the way. I'll make the same disclaimer, I'm sure, when I talk about Oathbringer, but the first 3 books I got mass market paperbacks because you can get them for like $8. And now I'm going to invest in the Dragon Steels. But this book fell apart towards the end. The Way of Kings fell apart more towards the beginning. But I got towards the end and like 4 pages were like practically falling out. And this book also had the problem of, if you don't really notice symmetry on things, it's not that big a deal, but some of these pages were printed like the print is crooked, and it's very noticeable. I say very noticeable, but like you can kind of just tell at the top like it's slanted, which is fine. I still got through the book, but anyways, this book was great. I am going to say something that is probably a little controversial. I think The Way of Kings is better. That's my personal opinion. I think it's the problem I have with this is, The Way of Kings was Kaladin's book. All the flashbacks were Kaladin. And in this book, it's Shallan. And Shallan was probably my least favorite character in The Way of Kings. And she's probably still one of my least favorites in this book, even though it centers primarily on her. One thing that really irks me about her character is, and she can be clever, but man, when every character is saying she's clever, it gets annoying. At this point, we can't even say, we can't say, oh, that's a smart thing to say. Oh, you're a smart ass. Like, you're not saying any of that. It's consistently, oh, that was clever. Oh, that was clever. Every time she meets a new character, they're always saying, oh, what a clever girl. And it's like, dude, shut up. I'm going to rip my hair out. But I think it's to draw something between her and Yasna, because Yasna is known to be clever because she reads books, and so does Shallan. I don't know, if I found it annoying. It felt like almost every chapter, not every chapter, but quite a few, probably 70% of Shallan's chapters, she was being called clever, and I just couldn't. It was annoying. I'm a little annoyed about... Actually, no, we won't continue. We won't move on to spoilers yet. I am going to spoil this book. I'll let you know when I'm going to start talking about spoilers, because I need to get some gripes out of the way with it, because The Way of Kings was so good, and I didn't really have many negative things to say, but the pacing with Shallan is really rough, because things are happening. Let's get that out of the way. Things happen in Shallan's chapters, okay? She's not reading books and is like, oh, I miss my brothers. It's more, like in The Way of Kings, it's more, she's doing stuff. She's kind of fighting for her life. And I didn't really start getting attached to her story until she met with the Ghost Bloods. And that's not a spoiler. I don't think. It's very minor. But that was when I started getting attached. But I'll talk about that in a sec. So Shallan's pacing, or Shallan's story, affects the pacing of the book a lot. And a lot of people I know, that talk about this, they say, oh, I think Shallan's parts are great. And they don't really talk about the pacing. But man, I just thought it killed it. There's a lot of stuff going on with Kaladin in this book. There's a lot of stuff going on with Kaladin in The Way of Kings. But I don't know, I was just more drawn towards Kaladin and Adolin's struggles. Like, literally one of the first chapters with Adolin, the Iron Stance chapter, it's like chapter 30. It was so good. And no one talks about how good that chapter is. I loved it. But I think I should get into spoilers now. Before I do, this book is like a 9.5. I have to give The Way of Kings a 10 out of 10. That is literally one of the greatest books I've ever read. And that's not to dog on this one. I just prefer The Way of Kings. And, this is the number one book on Goodreads, the second book in the Stormlight Archive, which I think is insane. I think The Way of Kings deserves it, but I understand that's why this would be more appealing. There's a lot of build-up, a lot of discovery in this book. So, of course, everyone's probably like, oh, that's what that means. Oh, that's what this means. And the big reveal at the end, I'm not going to lie, I kind of knew the reveal from the start of the book that we got at the end. And I guess a lot of people didn't realize that. I don't know. Everything just pointed to that reveal. And I thought it was obvious, but maybe, I guess it wasn't from what I've seen. But anyways, on to spoilers. So let's talk about the Iron Stance chapter. So it is the first duel that Adolin is going for. I think the guy's name he was fighting was Elit. And he's dueling people for shard blades and shard plates because Dalinar in the previous book gave up his shard blade to kind of prove a point to Sadeas. But now Dalinar has realized he needs to take away the teeth of all the other political factions, and what better way to do that than to take their weapons, like their primary weapons. So the way you win these is either by dueling, which is how they're primarily doing it, or they kill them in battle or something. So Adolin, who is skilled beyond all belief, you don't really know that until you read the Iron Stance chapter, brutally defeats Elit and takes his shard blade and plate. And it was crazy. It was such a short chapter, but it stuck out to me so much because, I've heard Adolin speak and talk, and he seems like a cocky brat, and you're like, oh, he's probably going to get shit rocked, and now we're going to have to deal with the fact that Dalinar's faction doesn't have any shard blades or plates, and they're going to be screwed. That's kind of where my brain went. So to see him, his first duel, and he actually can back up the shit talk, was awesome. He brutally got Elit. So the fighting and dueling is supposed to be like this dance. He even talks about it in that chapter. And Adolin decides to take up Iron Stance, which is like the most aggressive, rigid stance ever. It is not supposed to be aesthetically pleasing. And he just counters him, hits him. Guy drops his blade. It disappears in the mist because blades are summoned. And Adolin de-summons his blade and walks up and just starts beating the shit out of Elit. And I was like, dude, this is awesome. And then they're like saying, stop, what are you doing? And he's like, I won, right? And they're like, well, you have to break more pieces. And then he just like looks down at Elit, who's like cowering, and he just like busts open either the shoulder or the chest plate, and he like rips the pieces. He's like, there you go, I've won. And they're like, Adolin Kholin has won. That was awesome. But, let's talk about Shallan a little bit. Oh yeah, before we talk about Shallan, I know why no one talks about that dueling scene. It's because the climax, what is it, part 3 or 4 of that duel with Adolin is definitely one of the biggest highlights of the book. If there's a standing moment that's going to make you stand while reading the book, The Way of Kings had one of those moments where I stood, and I stood up while reading. If there's any moment in this book that's going to make you stand up, it's probably going to be that, or the first assassination attempt on Dalinar's life. One of those two moments, right? So, anyways, Shallan's character. Unfortunately, if I was reading this book when it first came out, I probably would have thought Jasnah died at the start of the book. Unfortunately, the third book has her on the front cover, and it's very obviously Jasnah, because Jasnah is said to have this long flowing hair, tan skin, wears purple, and like the lady on the front of the third book matches all those descriptions, so I'm like, it's Jasnah. So I knew she wasn't dead. She had a brutal death at the start, and Shallan washes up on the Frostlands and has to try and survive, which is fun. She meets a lot of people from the previous book who deserted, which was fun. And I really like the part with the caravan where you realize she is a type of surge binder. She can draw in Stormlight, where she kind of grabs him and is like, you'll get your money soon enough. And like she starts subconsciously sucking in Stormlight and she's exhaling the light and her eyes start glowing. That was a pretty cool moment. Underrated. No one talks about it. But it's really cool. I think it's just because it's at the start. It's within the first 200 pages. So yeah, no one really talks about it. But that was an awesome moment because you're like, holy shit, she can actually draw all this energy in. She doesn't just have the ability to soul cast, she has the ability to do this. And then she goes along with Tin for a little while, and that was decently fun. I had some good moments there. I just found Shallan's chapters to be slower paced. And then she eventually meets Adolin, and that's always, that was a fun thing. I like the little love triangle that's going on between Adolin, Kaladin, and Shallan. I really hope, this book got me to really like Adolin, so I really hope Adolin doesn't go to the dark side, essentially. But with how this book ended, he might, I don't know. Yeah, at the end of this book, he kills someone, he's just over it, and I love it. I think that it was so awesome because, you know, he already got deserted. Okay, it's obvious. He kills Sadeas at the end, right? I think it's great because he already got deserted with his dad, left for dead in the first book. And then he almost gets crippled because him, like Sadeas and the other guys kind of say what they're going to do and they kind of find a loophole for that duel, and they were going to leave him crippled. So, yeah, of course, he's over it. He's so over it. So he just finds Sadeas walking alone in a hallway, and he's like, man, F this. I know I'm not supposed to do it. It's been reiterated so many times that he shouldn't do it. He shouldn't kill Sadeas no matter how much he deserves it. And yet he's just like, man, who cares? I don't care. So I thought that was fun, even though it scares me a little because I think Adolin's going to go to the dark side, and I don't want that. I really like Adolin. Let's see. Shallan's twist. Continuing with this is me just going to be a bunch of spoilers, but I want to cover all of it. I feel I need to get my thoughts out there. Shallan killed her mom and her dad. I didn't know she killed her dad. That was a little shocking. And dude, the way she killed her dad, that was effed up. Did he deserve it? Honestly, yeah, he kind of did. Like, the way he got a new wife and he killed her, and he was injuring and, like, breaking the arms of servants and killing some of the maids, and then he left one of his sons for dead, and he actually hired someone to go kill one of his sons. It's like, yeah, honestly, he kind of deserved it. He was lashing out a little too much. But Shallan singing a lullaby while she's killing her, like strangling her dad, that was brutal. But I don't know if I just read between the lines a little too well, but when she was like, I killed my mom, I was like, I know. I was like, I know. And it's definitely supposed to be like a big twist because it's in the last chapter. Or it's in the epilogue. I don't think it's in the epilogue. I think that was Wit and Yasna. Yeah, I don't know. Just everything that was said, I was like, oh yeah, she killed her mom and her dad is taking the blame. Like, I don't know, something about it, the way it was phrased, what it was, I knew for some reason. I don't know why, but I've seen some reviews on this book and they're like, what a twist! And I'm like, was it a twist? I was like, I knew from the start. I knew from the get-go, like, from like the first or second flashback, I knew. I don't know. I don't appreciate the 2 fake out deaths. That was a little annoying. I guess originally there was supposed to be 2, or like 2 legitimate deaths. If Sadeas is still alive, I'm gonna be pissed because that would mean this book has 3 fake out deaths. The Yasna one, honestly, for storytelling purposes, makes sense. Shallan needed to grow as a character. So Shallan thinking Yasna's dead and having to put her big girl boots and pants on, perfect sense. And I did like that development. And the development of her powers, like she develops an entirely new alias, which is awesome. Yeah, I thought that was great. Or sneaking in to talk to the one guy, the crazy guy, but he's not crazy, but he is. Yeah, that was great. She's kind of, what is it? She's doing her own thing. I do like that. She's not really beholden to what her brothers need or what Yasna wants. That was good. I did like the character development there. I just find it annoying that in a lot of chapters everyone's like, "Oh, clever girl," and it's like, man, be quiet. But yeah, and then Zeth got a fake out death, and I'm gonna be honest, it was so abrupt that I knew. I was like, he's not dead. I was like, there's no way he's dead. Like, I get it. Zeth wants to die. I was like, he wants to die. He got his hand cut off. I was like, and I know he fell into the High Storm or Everstorm, I forget which, but he fell into it, and then I was like, I don't know, something about it just didn't sit right with me. I was like, he's not dead. I was like, there's no way he's dead. And then in like last chapter, whatever, epilogue, he's not dead. It was like, oh, wow, that's crazy. Who would have seen that coming? Not me. Oh, wait, I did see it coming. But yeah, this book has a lot of great moments in it. Kaladin defending Dalinar from Zeth the first time, and having to talk with Hobber about what he's going to do with no legs as a soldier, and how he failed his crew. I thought that was awesome. Because I think that is how a lot of militaries operate. It's more like, oh, I got shot, and the guy's not really concerned about his health. He's concerned about his crewmates. And I think that's pretty cool. I thought that was realistic, and I enjoyed that. And then the first fight with Zeth was great. The second fight was good, but I don't know, it had this air about it where I was like, Kaladin's gonna win. I was like, I don't know, something about it. It didn't feel as tense. I didn't feel as much tension. I was like, oh, dude, Kaladin's gonna destroy Zeth. It was this back and forth thing. I wasn't really questioning if he had it in the bag or not. And then, yeah, we need to talk about this. Warbreaker. You do need to read it before. You'll get a lot more out of it, because there is a talking sword in Warbreaker, and that talking sword shows up at the very end of this book. So something on a completely different planet in a completely different story has now made its way onto Roshar, and that's a big deal. And then I found out, I had to look it up because I was wondering if that was the only thing. I was like, no way people were like, you have to read it for that. I was like, you could just be like, oh, it's a talking sword. But no, I guess another character in this book is Vasher from Warbreaker, and I will leave that to you guys to figure out, because I didn't figure it out. I was just looking up any Warbreaker references, and they're like, well, the talking sword at the end is Nightblood, and I was like, yeah, I knew that. And then they're like, and this character's Vasher, and I was like, well, what do you mean it's Vasher? I was like, there's no, what? And they're like, he brings up breaths and colors, and I was like, oh, he does. I was like, he does do that. And it was so weird. Anyways, yeah, good book. What's something else? There's a lot of things I want to talk about when it comes to the Stormlight books, even though I'm only 2 deep and I got 3 more to go. I know there's a lot I want to talk about. Oh yeah, the shard plate in and of itself, I don't envision it being very bulky. We get illustrations at the beginning of some chapters where you see shard plate and shard blades. I envision the blades being really big. I don't envision the armor as bulky as it's shown. I kind of envision, let me do a little display capture for you guys. So, see this right here? See how it's kind of sleek? It even mentions in the book that it's like sleek and elegant. So I envision this, but also I was looking some stuff up. So, like, this is kind of what you're shown. Oh, maybe I should move myself a little. This is what you're shown, and this is what I envision. I envision stuff like this. This was fan-made, and so I'm clearly not the only one who envisions something like this. And some fans are not happy that other fans envision this very like sleek armor. But dude, that's legitimately what I envision every time. These are cool. They're not as sleek. They're a little more on the bulky side. I definitely don't envision this. That's for damn sure. But yeah, definitely something like this. Every time I think of people fighting in shard plate, I think of guys that look like this, just different colors. This, if I were to guess, is supposed to be, well, it says Gavilar, but I don't know. I almost envision this to be Adolin's armor, like a blue and gold. But yeah, I had some qualms about that. Every time I come across the beginning of a chapter and I see this big hulking armor like this, it kind of rubs me the wrong way. I did just I wanted to cover that for a second because I don't know. Now I might have gotten you guys to start envisioning sleeker, like thinner armor. But I don't know. I envision armor with literal stormlight surging through it to not need to be that bulky because it has stormlight imbued in it. So I don't know. It made sense to me. I'm probably going to keep imagining that the armor is very sleek because that's way cooler to me than hulking masses. And then I've seen comments where people say, oh, no, I think the bulky armor is way cooler. Yeah, anyways, I think that's about all I have to say. I had a 7-minute video of this planned, and I don't think I got my thoughts across clearly, so I wanted to make a longer one, because I think this book really deserves it. I don't think this book deserves the treatment I give like a 200-page book, which is kind of what I did originally, but I didn't spoil The Way of Kings, but I spoiled this one, and I gave you all a warning. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you have some reason to actually read it, and I hope those of you that have read it can, have some comments on my thoughts about the book and why I'm wrong and why this is better than The Way of Kings, but I personally find The Way of Kings to be better. Anyways, that's it. See ya.